Vasda Punjab.
What's up, y'all? On this episode of the Bhangra Podcast, we are talking to the captains of Vasda Punjab, Talveen and Sahib, about their first place win at World Class Bhangra 2022. So be sure to smack that subscribe button with your khunda, and let's get into it.
Watch the breakdown.
That idea, it kind of came, actually at 4 weeks before the competition. So what the thought was at the time was like, we were currently folding back over the dancers, but I thought like, how can you take this to another level? It's like, imagine you're literally looking at, paintings or photos or something. It's like, you're then finally, the theme about, the frames is like each stage is you're getting ready. So the first one is, of course, a bug tire. Second one, you're getting your fullments done. The third one, you're doing a janjit. But coming through the frames is almost like we are now activated. We are fully coming onto stage, and like now it's time for the actual performance to happen. So that's kind of where it all tied in.
And so then when people are running between frames, your focus is on what the khunda are doing. And then when the khunda are still, your focus is on inside the frames. And again, it's just about like, how do you draw the audience to the right thing and stop them looking at the wrong thing?
So, initially, as part of the whole khunda, how can khunda be used differently? We were thinking about, tapping the khunda, tapping it in windows. And initially what we actually had was 2 circles moving across stage and the outer and inner rings tapping, alternating. But for some reason, it was something that was nice to watch, but it wasn't really, as impactful. And like part of what I was saying earlier in terms of like how you can put yourself in the judge's shoes or someone in the audience's shoes, us doing this, tapping the khunda in the gaps, moving, tapping again, it adds just that little element of risk. What if this goes wrong? And if you nail that, and if you make that element of risk look flawless and look like, we did this with ease, it just takes something to complete another level. Atal, you can probably talk about however many iterations we had of this.
Yeah, we definitely thought a lot about, how should we do the taps? How can we move on to the next bit as well? Because when we were moving back to the center, we were kind of cutting it short because we needed to go to the next formation, which meant that the idea didn't feel as complete. And then we were thinking about how do we swap the circles? Initially we had this kind of like Bhangra kind of pickup thing. And it was very tight, wasn't comfortable. It didn't look as impactful. And so in the end, you can see we went for jumps and berke. And maybe that was the simplest version, but it's the version that was the clearest to show the idea of the circles expanding or contracting and swapping over.
So this was actually, after TBS this year, I kind of went back to, I was studying during TBS. I was in my last year of dental school, and, it was really intense. And so I had my placement in Portsmouth, and I was on the train to Portsmouth, and I was actually just like, I don't know, my mind was wandering, and I had an Amazon package in my bag. This is not an advert, by the way. And I just took one of the back papers out of, just ripped some of the cardboard off the Amazon package. And I just started doodling stuff. And then I think I could send you some footage of how we first tried this, because it was hilarious. It was literally myself, one of our Vasda dancers and a captain, a table with a chair on top. We balanced the khunda on there, and we were just trying all the different variations. Initially what we actually had was, we had 2 pendulums, one bridge in the middle, and people swapping it here, and then one on the side, and one at the back. It didn't have that level of finesse that was going to take this idea to what it needed to be.
I think this is again an example where, the first time we sent that video to the group chat, all of us were like, oh my God, this is mind blowing. This is going to hit so hard. And this was the variation that in the end we were like, doesn't slap. And so, and this was again something that, some of our senior members, they came, and after a few weeks, we'd been doing the idea for a while, and they were like, we don't like it. We don't think it's going to work. We don't think it hits. And I think, luckily we had the conviction that, no, this is, it's a really strong idea. We will develop it to get to the point that it did get to. And again, like I was saying, like we didn't give up on it just because we heard like some negative views on it. And I think again, like this idea was just so strong that we had such faith that we would pull it off.
I think, especially when for any teams out there, like if you have a really good idea that you think is something really special, don't be satisfied. Like don't be like, don't sell yourself short. Make sure you really do try everything you can to bring that to life to the best of your ability, because you never know how much you can elevate your own idea until you're truly satisfied with it. No, don't stop and don't give up.
I think from a judge's perspective as well, what they said to us afterwards was they really appreciated us taking those risks. And it was something that elevated everything that we did. The fact that we did stuff that really could have gone horribly wrong. If we, Sahib and I talked about this a lot. If we left one khunda on stage after that drop, it's game over for us. We have no opportunity to pick it up. It would have really, everyone would focus on that, and suddenly the idea is completely lost. And so it is really, really high risk.
And it's not like a khunda is going to be on the floor on stage, like you're going to have to dodge it. The khunda is hooked onto another guy's khunda. And in particular instance, like, either side of the bridge, you have two people bringing their khunda down. If your khunda goes in between theirs, then you've messed up two guys, and that's three people on stage. Well, probably four actually. One entire bridge who's going to be messed up. And bear in mind, one guy's just literally thrown his khunda and turned around, and he's just going to turn around and see disaster, which is part of why, where my khunda, the bridge with us, whatever happened, I don't actually recall exactly on stage. When I turned around, even though the khunda was going the other way, I was like, I'm getting this khunda out of there. Most definitely.
All right, real quick Patreon plug. If you want to watch the entire 1 hour and 30-minute conversation with the captains of Vasda Punjab, be sure to go support us on Patreon and unlock that conversation as well as other exclusive Bhangra content. All right, see ya. Bye.
But just in terms of colors, and so like we said at the start, this was really important for us throughout, that we were really conscious of the hots and the colds. And so in the formation, once we finish the jumps and everything, then you can see there is a pattern. We kind of have Geordies going across. The front line is hot, cold, cold, hot, and at the back it's cold, hot, hot, cold. And even here, when we go into kind of these bridges, which we'll talk about, then you'll see that the front people of the bridge are all hot, the back people are all cold, and then it kind of lines up nicely for the people who are hooking on. And so it's stuff like that which, as a judge or as an audience member, you might not see, but visually it makes the idea a lot clearer, and it's very easy on the eye, and it's something that subconsciously aids your viewing experience. And so it was something that was super important for us. Yeah, I think Sahib told me once when I was a young dancer that the reason like vardi is so important for us is that how can you stand out before you even started dancing? And so when the lights come up and they see our vardis, how can we already be interesting? And I think that's a big challenge for us every year. How can you already be interesting? And make sure, every team's just not wearing the same 8 colors or 4 colors and doing the same kind of thing. So it's something that we do put a lot of thought into. Yeah, I think, as you said, we really value transitions, and we think it's something that we've seen from a lot of really well-performing sets, that they use them really well, and it adds to the flow, and it adds to how you see it. As you said, it's seamless, it's easy on the eye. And so this one was, Sahib and I were really struggling for a drop of idea. We were trying to think, how can we do something super weird with a khunda? How can we, is there anything else that we have in our brains to kind of do it? And we couldn't think of anything at the time. And, me and him were on a call, and we were spitballing, maybe 8, 9, 10 ideas. And this was maybe our 10th idea. And I was like, what if we just have 2 circles and they're just rotating? And we have the khunda handed off, it peels off, it's super clean. It's something that maybe you won't realize until a couple beats in how it's happening. But for the people who are dropping off their khunda to the other person, then it's something that happens so fast that you won't even notice. And it allows us to kind of do this stop pickup very seamlessly. And also the people without the khunda, they come to the front of the stage and suddenly they don't have a prop, and so they can give all the energy to the audience, and we have the people at the back stage with the khunda. They can chuck it, no one's going to see. And so this was something that we really wanted, that smoothness and kind of the seamless nature between the two prop segments.
Yeah.
Transitions, I think, have year on year been getting better and better between sets. And really, it's what, to me, distinguishes a winning set from a set that's average, and a set where you know, some people have overlooked some details. If you're really willing to put so much energy into every single detail in a segment, then you're going to be up there with deserving to win first place.
Yeah, I think for us as well, like watching, I think everyone might agree that watching some sets or most set, there's always a point where you're like, oh, I'm slightly bored. I've lost a little bit of interest now because they've done a cool thing and they're about to do a cool thing, but right now I'm a bit in the middle and it doesn't really, I'm not watching. And so even something like a prop drop off is a big moment for when that happens. And so how can we make sure that, we don't just leave the stage empty and all the dancers are on the edge and they're just dropping props. And like, that's something that, we did at Kings this year. We had SUPs dropped off on the side and our stage was left empty. And we watched that back and we thought, we can never do that again. That's not something that, is interesting and engaging for the audience. So like Simon said, it's a really big one for us to make sure that we always hold the interest of the judges.
All right. Thank you all again for listening to another episode of the Bhangra Podcast. Now that you've learned from some of the best in the UK, be sure to watch this video so that you're learning from some of the best in the United States. And as always, thank you again to all our Patreon supporters for making this episode possible. And I want to specifically shout out Karku, Azwad, Adnan, Karthik, SS, Grints, Darsh, Siddharth, Ashwin, Sarisha, Shivan, Manvir, Jashan, Tirat, Sheesh, Given, Ravi, Sani, Saab, Bhavin, and Faraz. Deuce.